Hey guys, I'm really excited to be filming this. This is the first video in my tea time segment, which is just my kind of chit chat, ramble on about whatever I want to ramble on about segment. So I'm really happy and I get to drink a cup of tea. Okay, so this video is my study history, as this channel is going to be quite big on my studies. I am going to focus on them a lot in my videos, and so I thought, what better place to start than actually going through my study history and bringing you up to date with where I am before I start bringing my studies and the topics that I study and my university plans into the channel and incorporating them into my videos. Okay, so like any normal kid, I started off at secondary school. I'll start there with my studies. Didn't get on fantastically at my first secondary school, and it was really far away from where I lived. So I ended up at the end of year 7 moving to a school that was actually on my street, and I spent the rest of my secondary education there, and it was not a bad school. I did okay there, and I'm happy with what happened in my time there. So I was just your average student, to be quite honest, all the way through school. I wasn't kind of really bad and getting in trouble and being kicked out all the time, but I wasn't the straight A student. I was on the gifted and talented list for several subjects, English being kind of the subject that everybody thought I was going to do the best in. And I was set to be a high achiever, and I did let down both the staff and myself slightly. Not massively, I still came out with 12 GCSEs, C and above, so I cannot complain at all at that. They were just majority C and B, which isn't, to me, fantastic. I know that sounds quite ungrateful, but I wish I'd come out with more A's. The thing is though, you come to learn that when you get to college, your GCSEs are irrelevant, to be quite honest. I'm not saying don't do well in them, don't strive for your absolute best in your exams, because of course they're important, but in the grand scheme of things, and if you're somebody that's planning to go to university, it is your higher education that is taken far more into account. Of course you need your C in your maths and English, and sometimes in your science. They are kind of the mandatory things you need for anything anyway, so always push for your best in both of those. I was quite lucky that because I was in the top set throughout school, I was allowed to start my GCSEs a year early, which meant I'd passed them a year early. I'd got my B in my English and my C in maths by the middle of year 10. And so from then on, I didn't have to do any more. I spent most of year 10 and 11 focusing on the topics that I'd chosen myself, which were creative media, performing arts, and travel and tourism, which I did really well in all three, actually. I was really pleased to come out with the grades I did. Following that, I stayed in the same town and went to the college in that town. Because I'd done so well with my GCSEs, I did pick up A-level subjects for my first year. So this is AS, and I chose anthropology, psychology, and PE. A-levels were not a good time for me. There was a lot of factors which came into play with my first 3 years at this one college going terribly wrong. A-levels were harder than I'd anticipated. I started falling behind. I wasn't revising enough. I was too preoccupied with college life than I was with studying, which I now realise is a big mistake, but this is something I'll move on to later. And I only actually passed one of my A-levels, which was anthropology. So I picked A-levels because I'd always wanted to go into a healthcare profession, preferably something psychology related or sports related. I did for a long time want to be a physiotherapist, which kind of incorporates the physical and the mental side of it. But because I messed up so bad on my A-levels, I was really put off, and because I didn't have the grades to get into university. So when I came back for my second year, this would have been year 13 if you were in sixth form, I decided to study IT, which is nothing to do with anything that I've ever wanted to do. I wasn't massively interested. I was slightly interested. I've always been the most technically inclined person in my family, and so I did choose that, but it was mostly chosen for the people on the course. And again, I had that stupid mentality of college life being such a big part of college life when it's not. You're at college to study and get that higher education. But moving on from that, I had a terrible 2 years on IT. Eventually started to really hate the course and resent it, and the people on it as well were a massive factor in me not wanting to go there. And this is around the time that my mental illness got really in the way of studies as well. I ended up getting to the point where I completely broke down about 4 or 5 months before the course was due to end, and I actually made the decision with my family to drop out completely. And I know people will say, well, that's such a waste of time, this and that. I did get my first year certificate, so it's not like I'd wasted 2 years and got nothing. I'd just wasted, like, say 4 or 5 months. But in all of those months, I'd been wanting to drop out anyway, and I'd just been letting it go on and on because I didn't want to be a college dropout. Then a lot happened, and I went back to wanting to work in the healthcare sector, and so I got myself a job as a carer in the community. That didn't work out, and that was nothing to do with the job itself or me or the clients. That was the company I was working for, which I'm not going to talk a lot about because it's just a shitty thing for me. I was lucky enough that because I get on so well with my boyfriend and his family, they allowed me to move in with them, and then I started working in the hospital that they lived nearest to, and still was in the mentality of I really want to get into a healthcare position. And I didn't think that I was going to be able to get into psychology now, because I'd kind of done so bad in my studies at college and really not gone down the right path. So I looked into the courses that were ran at the local college, which is where my boyfriend also goes, and I found the level 3 health and social care, which I thought, oh wow, this is fantastic. This will make it really easy for me to get back into a care job and work my way up from the bottom in care, which is something I'd rather not do, but I felt it was my only option. And so I apply and I get to the interview and they speak to me and I go through everything with them. And with me being 19 as well, they tell me, no, actually, you're really better suited to the access to HE, which is the access to higher education. And these are year-long courses in whatever subject you choose. And you do these, and then given that you get the grades, your chances of getting into uni are the same as anybody who had done really well in A-levels. And they're really more specific as well. They're more specific to what you're going to uni to do. There's a lot more university prep. And so they're just spot on. And so when they were offered me this, I was over the moon and I applied for that. And obviously it's what I'm now currently studying, is access to nursing. And so far I'm in love with the course. It incorporates everything that I'm best at, all of my favourite academic subjects. And it means that I can eventually go on to psychotherapy or cognitive behavioural therapy, which is my career choice, which is my career goal. You know how people kind of have their dream job? That is my dream job. And so far I am really succeeding on the course. I'm really doing well. So that's where I'm at currently. That's where I started. And my goal is to get to university next year, starting in September 2017. And as I say, now I've kind of done this, it's kind of set the tone for the rest of my videos throughout the year, and I'll keep everybody updated on all of that. This was a really, really fun video to make, as I said. I think tea time is going to be my favourite segment, in all honesty. Thank you for sitting through that kind of probably more boring if you stuck around, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.